When people think about orphanages in 19th century America, the first image that usually comes to mind is one of kindness and care. Church-run homes where adults took on the heavy responsibility of looking after helpless, abandoned children. Places built on faith and compassion, where the vulnerable found shelter and protection. Almost saintly institutions, or so it seemed. But in the small town of Cheyenne, Wyoming, there was one orphanage that completely shattered this image. Here, the very principles of humanity were twisted beyond recognition. Behind a mask of faith, charity, and child-rearing, a dark system thrived, not saving children, but breaking them down, piece by piece. No official records survive about this place. No photographs. It's as if someone deliberately tried to wipe it from history. And if not for a chance discovery in the Wyoming State Archives, we might never have known who lived there, or the terror that hung heavy over those walls. This is a story that does not begin with love. It begins with disappearance. Children were sent to this orphanage from all corners of the state. Families, overwhelmed by poverty or tragedy, believed their children would be safe there. But then, suddenly, all contact stopped. Letters went unanswered, visits ceased, and the children, they vanished. Even their closest relatives never found out what happened to them. And the most chilling part? No one searched for these children. No one demanded answers. The orphanage became a black hole, swallowing children whole, and leaving behind only silence. This was not a place of refuge. It was a place of fear. Fear that was carefully hidden under layers of piety and good intentions. The truth about this orphanage is a painful reminder that not all that appears kind is truly so. That sometimes, behind the doors meant to protect, there is something much darker. This forgotten place in Cheyenne, Wyoming, stands as a haunting echo of the past, a story waiting to be told, lest we forget the lives lost and the lessons still to be learned. While working in the archives of the local historical association in Cheyenne, Wyoming, volunteers stumbled upon a long-forgotten box of documents that had never been digitized. Among dozens of ordinary reports, ledger books, and records from the 1870s, one report immediately stood out, marked by a large ink blot in the corner and written in an unusually neat and deliberate handwriting, as if penned with extra care. The document was filed by a sheriff named Edgar Mills. His signature is clear, yet surprisingly, there are no photos of him in modern databases. What's more, his name doesn't appear on any known police rosters or newspaper records from that era. It's as if he was a fictional character, or someone whose traces were deliberately erased from history. The report details the disappearance of 16 children, aged 3 to 12, who lived in a charitable orphanage on the outskirts of town. The disappearances happened within a single week, shockingly fast. Yet the report emphasizes that there were no signs of violence or forced entry. Staff members claimed the children might have gone for a night walk, but no caregiver could explain how the orphanage doors remained locked from the inside. At the time, the orphanage housed 47 children. After the disappearances, 31 remained. However, none of these children's names appear in census records, school rosters, or church registries from that period. It was as if none of the 47 children ever existed at all. This report is a mystery that raises more questions than answers. Who was Sheriff Edgar Mills? Why is there no record of him in official documents? What happened to the children? And why was their disappearance never truly investigated? And why has the fate of the remaining children been so carefully hidden from history? This archival discovery is a reminder that sometimes the darkest secrets aren't hidden in shadowy alleys or forgotten basements, but right under our noses, buried in dusty pages of the past. And this is a story we mustn't forget. The discovery of the wooden box in 1957 was just the beginning. As Johnny Fraser cautiously opened the wax seal, he revealed the fragile pages of Hannah Lawrence's diary, pages that whispered secrets lost to time. Each entry painted a haunting picture of life inside the orphanage, far removed from the comforting image of charity and care. Hannah's descriptions of daily routines, the harsh winters, the meager meals, the strict rules, were mixed with chilling accounts of strange occurrences that no child should endure. The red-haired boy with hollow eyes appeared repeatedly in her writings, a silent watcher in the night. His presence was a constant source of fear, but no one could explain who or what he was. Hannah's fears were compounded by the eerie phone calls from Teacher James, whose voice was often overshadowed by an unearthly song in a language no one understood. This mysterious melody seemed to resonate with something ancient and malevolent, a link to dark forces far beyond the walls of the orphanage. The most baffling entry concerned the disappearance of her fellow orphans. Children simply vanished without trace. Beds were found empty, belongings left behind, but no evidence of death or departure. Staff members offered no explanations, only hushed whispers and pointed glances. Hannah's own sense of reality began to fray as she questioned her place in this nightmare. Decades later, historian Rachel Morgan took a keen interest in Hannah's story. Through painstaking analysis, she verified the diary's authenticity and traced its origins to Orphanage No. 4, a place long erased from public memory. Her research uncovered a troubling pattern. The orphanage was not an isolated case. Similar disappearances and unexplained phenomena were reported at boarding schools across several states, often linked by a shadowy figure named Mr. Tennant. Court records from Missouri told of another vanished group of children, with Tennant named as a suspect, or at least a figure of interest. The handwriting in those documents bore a striking resemblance to the diary's entries, suggesting a sinister network of institutions where children disappeared without a trace. Then came the audio recordings from 1972. Professor Howard Singer's sessions with a medium produced disturbing results. The woman's trance-like state revealed visions of the lost children and fragments of an unknown tongue. When linguists decoded the mysterious language years later, it was identified as an ancient Mayan dialect, with a cryptic warning: "The serpent will return through bodies without names." What did it mean? Was it a prophecy, a curse, or a clue to the fate of those children? As the investigation deepened, attention turned to the ruins of the burned-down school near Cheyenne. Beneath its charred remains lay a network of underground tunnels and chambers, forgotten by time, but possibly holding the truth. The tunnels were dark and labyrinthine, untouched for over 100 years. Exploring them promised answers, but also risked uncovering horrors best left buried. Who were these children really? Were they victims of neglect, cruelty, or something far worse? And most hauntingly, where were their bodies hidden, if anywhere at all? The story of Hannah Lawrence and the lost children of Cheyenne is more than history. It's a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors, and the importance of remembering those who have vanished without a trace. The spring of 2025 marked a turning point in a decades-old mystery surrounding Cheyenne's Orphanage number 444. After nearly a century, a team from the University of Wyoming was finally granted permission to use ground-penetrating radar on the property where the school once stood. The orphanage itself had burned down in 1923, its remains covered with rubble. Over time, an auto repair shop had been built on the site, only to be demolished later, leaving the ground undisturbed for many years. The radar scans revealed strange anomalies beneath the surface, vast underground cavities, carefully shaped with walls still intact. One cavern stretched almost 15 meters long, its exact purpose unknown. By June, excavation work began, and the atmosphere grew tense as the researchers uncovered a heavy iron door buried deep underground. It was unlike any door seen before. Without handles or hinges, it appeared to have been cast directly into the concrete, its sole purpose seemingly to imprison what lay behind it. News of the excavation quickly spread, attracting the attention of national media. Yet the most unsettling moments were still to come. On the third day, the team's night surveillance camera mysteriously disappeared from the site. It was found a full day later, hanging from a tree 200 meters away, its battery drained. The only recording was a chilling 5-minute clip, capturing faint children's laughter, intertwined with guttural, incomprehensible chanting. The fear among the crew grew. Some workers refused to return. One of them, speaking anonymously, described a terrifying encounter. "They're beneath us. We woke them up. I saw a girl standing in the corner. She had no face, only a mouth as large as her whole head." The excavations were immediately suspended, yet before the halt, part of the underground corridor had been uncovered. The black stone walls bore carvings that resembled the ancient rock art of the Anasazi culture, but with unsettling differences. Under ultraviolet light, some of the symbols glowed eerily, as if alive. At the end of this tunnel lay what experts later dubbed an anomalous artifact, a sphere roughly 1 meter in diameter, crafted from a material NASA specialists said didn't match anything on the periodic table. Its surface was flawlessly smooth, yet when a microphone was placed near it, a faint hum emerged, matching the frequency of low-frequency radio signals used by the U.S. military in the 1970s. An artifact from the early 1900s, a sound from the Cold War era, a material that defied earthly science. Just 2 weeks after the sphere's discovery, the excavation site was abruptly shut down. The university announced budget overruns as the official reason. But archaeology professor Marcus Espinoza, who was part of the team and later dismissed, revealed a darker truth. We were ordered to stop. Men without insignia came, confiscated all our data. They claimed it was a matter of national security. But I believe they were scared. Scared we might uncover something that has already found us. Since then, whispers have spread throughout Cheyenne about the faceless girl, a mysterious figure sighted in different corners of the county. Reports speak of children's laughter in the woods, unexplained knocking in abandoned buildings, and footprints appearing and vanishing without trace. The investigation now turns toward unraveling the identity of the red mark, a child seen in old photographs. Witnesses say he's not just alive, he's searching. and it seems that he has already found someone. The name Red Mark first emerged from the shadows of an old photo album belonging to Hatcher, a local historian whose collection included many images from the early 20th century. Among the sepia-toned faces was a striking photo of a boy with bright red hair. What caught the eye immediately was the strange mark on his forehead, an upside-down number 7, glowing faintly even in the faded print. Below the photo, written in a neat but haunting script, was the phrase, "The one who opens." At first glance, this seemed like an artistic flourish, perhaps a nickname or a symbolic title. But as more and more reports surfaced, the significance of the mark grew chillingly real. Starting from late 2024, strange events began unfolding across Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. Elderly citizens living alone spoke of a red-haired boy standing silently outside their windows in the dead of night, sometimes for hours. Young couples, moved by curiosity or unease, heard footsteps pacing in their attics, though no one was ever found. Security cameras malfunctioned without explanation at the exact moments this slender figure appeared nearby, as if the boy's presence interfered with the devices. In every account, witnesses described the same unsettling detail. The boy's hair was a vivid, unnatural shade of red, and on his forehead glowed the same inverted 7-shaped mark seen in the photograph. One of these witnesses, Jennifer Cole, is a 72-year-old resident at a veterans' home in Laramie. She shared her story with us. "He looked right at me, but his eyes, he didn't have eyes like a normal person. It was like he could see everything I ever did, every mistake. Yet his smile wasn't angry or mean, just like he had seen it all before, like this wasn't new to him." To explore whether this figure was real or a shared hallucination, we turned to a curious piece of evidence. An old tape linked to the diary of Hannah Lawrence, the girl who once lived at Orphanage number 4. On this tape, around 6 minutes in, a distorted phrase in an unrecognizable language plays. Desperate to understand, we consulted a team of cryptographers and linguists. One expert, Professor Martin Haller, suggested a startling interpretation. This isn't a conventional language. It's a series of commands, or keys. Repeating these phrases triggers specific responses. It's as though the recording is communicating with someone, or something. Just days after this breakthrough, Professor Haller suffered a fatal heart attack. The medical report cited a rare aneurysm, but a cryptic note was found on his desk. Red came. He liked me. The investigation took an even darker turn. When we ran the faces from the old photos through facial recognition software, the algorithm made an astonishing match. The boy known as the Red Mark bore a 94% resemblance to a real child who vanished in Utah in 2012. His name was Owen Green. His disappearance was strange. His parents reported he had stopped sleeping, and then one night simply disappeared, leaving a mysterious mark on the wall shaped like an inverted 7. Was it coincidence? The odds say no. But the ultimate mystery remains. Who or what is the Red Mark? Is he one of the 32 missing children, their harbinger, or is he something far more terrifying? A presence sealed away beneath the orphanage's ruins, now come back to walk among us. The final fragment of audio captured before the excavation was halted offers a haunting clue. It's a child's voice, clear and deliberate, as if speaking directly to the listener. "You're looking in the wrong place. We are already here." This story leaves us suspended between disbelief and dread. Too many unexplained facts, too many eerie coincidences to dismiss as mere fiction. Yet the truth remains elusive. Was Cheyenne Orphanage number 4 a site of forgotten tragedy, or was it a carefully concealed experiment, erased from history? Did these children truly exist, or are they a collective nightmare, born from fear of what we cannot understand? Skeptics will dismiss it as folklore, paranoia, and archival gaps. Believers in the paranormal will insist we've touched something ancient and powerful. Perhaps the reality lies somewhere in between. One thing is clear. They never wanted us to find out. And now that their story is out, they might be coming for you. 3 weeks after our investigation was published, and as the views surpassed 1 million, the messages started pouring in. Hundreds of them. At first, they appeared in the comments. Then they flooded our private inbox. People began sharing stories. Some recognized the name Hannah Lawrence from tales told by their grandmothers. Others sent old school photos where, in a corner, stood a girl who looked like the Whisperer. And then, one user, who signed as H4TCH3R, sent us an audio file. The file was named Orphan's Last Wov. The accompanying note contained just one line. This is the recording Hatcher was never allowed to publish. We immediately handed the file over to audio analysis specialists. The original source was tape, roughly dated to the 1960s, but layered with digital processing. The recording lasted 18 minutes. Most of it was silence, but at exactly 14 minutes and 27 seconds, a sharp, piercing squeal burst forth. An ultrasound tone, felt more by the body than by the ears. After the squeal came whispering voices. Several, all children. The phrases were blurred, as if a mix of languages, or something not entirely human. Yet, through the digital noise, one phrase stood out clearly. He is not locked in the school. The school was the key. Do not open it again. We dove into the archives and, unexpectedly, found a connection to James Hatcher's granddaughter, Allison. She told us that her grandfather had repeatedly spoken of a blocked chapter, material the scientific journal refused to publish when he tried in 1978. She also confirmed that the photo album wasn't the only collection. There was a second folder containing materials about what happened after 1923, the year the school was officially demolished. Allison found this folder in her basement, hidden among old boxes of books, and she entrusted it to us. Inside were handwritten notes, schematics of tunnels beneath the school building, clippings from local newspapers, and the most disturbing photographs, recent, in color. They showed a building resembling school number 444, but the photos were dated 1986, and the GPS coordinates pointed to a place where there should have been nothing but hills. We went there. What we found defies explanation. Moss-covered foundation ruins, traces of melted metal on stones, and the symbol, the very same. An inverted 7 carved into the inner side of a stone slab. Around it, the earth looked scorched, as if burned. We did not dig any deeper. Now, nearly a century after the disappearance of Cheyenne Orphanage number 4, we stand once more on the edge of an abyss. After all parts of this investigation were published, we received a letter. A physical letter. No stamp. No return address. Inside was only one item, a photograph. It showed our entire production team. The picture was taken by us for the cover image, only this time, next to us, stood another figure, one that had not been there originally, a boy with red hair. In the corner, a handwritten note. "Thank you for freeing us. The deeper truth, and what it means, remains obscured. Who or what is R7? The red mark, the boy who vanished decades ago, the key to a secret so profound it has been buried beneath the layers of history, fear, and silence. The chilling implication is that these children, or whatever they have become, were trapped, not just in a place, but in time. And now, freed by our uncovering of the past, they are no longer confined." This raises terrifying questions. Have we unwittingly opened a door that should have remained sealed? What exactly was locked away beneath the orphanage? And what will happen now that the veil between then and now, between seen and unseen, has been lifted? We face stories that blend folklore, government secrets, and unexplained phenomena. There is no neat conclusion, no comforting explanation. Instead, there is an invitation, or a warning. They are here. They have been waiting. And the mark they bear is more than just a symbol. It is a sign. Further testimonies followed. More people came forward, sharing experiences of strange figures in their towns. Children with red hair appearing in the shadows, silent footsteps echoing in empty rooms, whispers carried on the wind. One man described a fleeting glimpse in the forest, a girl with no face, but a mouth large enough to consume a whole face, standing silently in a corner. Another woman recounted hearing childlike laughter in the dead of night, accompanied by guttural, unintelligible speech. Every account added weight to the mystery. The official explanations, budget cuts, archaeological dead ends, now felt like thin veils hiding something much darker. What was Cheyenne Orphanage number 4? An abandoned school, a site of tragedy, or a sealed prison for something ancient and unknown? The tunnels beneath it, the strange glowing symbols resembling Anasazi petroglyphs, but twisted beyond recognition, the alien sphere made of unknown materials, all point to a truth too enormous and unsettling for most to accept. And now, as you read this, they may be watching. The children who vanished. The boy with the red mark. The voices on the tape. They are no longer confined to old photographs or forgotten basements. They exist in the spaces between reality and nightmare. You might see them in your dreams, hear their whispers in the night, feel their presence when you are alone. Because once freed, they do not remain hidden for long. This investigation was never just about the past. It is a story about what lurks beneath our world, waiting, watching, and perhaps coming for us next. It's been over a month since we received that photograph. Debates still rage within the team. Was it a fake, a trick of the light, or had someone hacked the server and inserted the silhouette of a boy into our archival image? At some point, we stopped trying to explain it rationally. Maybe we didn't want the answer anymore. That's when I got the call. No number, no name, just unknown caller. On the other end, silence. Then, a voice. "You're the skeptic, right? Who is this? You wanted answers. Who are you? Then listen." Click. And then, the phrase, the same one we heard in Hatcher's recording. "He is not locked in the school. The school was the key. Do not open it again." A short, electronic tone followed. Then silence. My phone hasn't worked since. No charging, no SIM, no diagnostic tool can detect it. It's as if the insides were burned out from within. I tried to rationalize it. Overheating, stress, a clever prank. But that same night, a letter arrived at my old mailing address, handwritten in ballpoint pen. The handwriting? Familiar. I was wrong. They didn't want to escape. They were waiting. Thank you for being their voice, but now they're no longer alone. 7. Since then, small things began to happen, insignificant on their own, but together, unsettling. Our editing software froze. Twice. Exactly at 14:27. Drafts began auto-saving under strange file names. Those who listen. R7 speaks. Behind the mirror. Files I never created. One of our team members quit the project after his 3-year-old daughter began having conversations with the boy in the window. They live on the 3rd floor. We didn't plan to make another episode. We wanted to walk away. We tried to close the case, but everything changed when a viewer sent us something unexpected. A map, hand-drawn by his grandfather. The map depicted an underground network, tunnels, shafts, chambers. At the center was a marking, R7. Next to it, a handwritten note. The cycle begins in November. Sometimes, journalism stops being an investigation and becomes an invitation. You dig into shadows long enough, and eventually, the shadows begin to dig into you. We don't know how much of this story is real, but we know this much. Someone wants us to keep going. Someone else wants us to stop. But they are already here. November is coming. If you hear something at night, a whisper, a knock, a child laughing in the dark, don't answer. Don't ask. Just turn off the lights. Post-release addendum. After the last entry aired, the response from viewers shifted. It was no longer simple curiosity. There was urgency. A man from Greeley, Colorado claimed his house began smelling like smoke at exactly 14:27 every day. He lives alone. There's no fireplace. Another message came from a nurse in Casper, Wyoming. She said an elderly patient, after weeks of silence, whispered in her ear just before midnight. They opened it again. He's walking now, she said, and his eyes turned completely black before he died, minutes later. We also received a short video clip from a traffic cam in rural Nebraska. The footage was grainy, distorted, and for a split second, a childlike figure with glowing marks on its forehead appears behind a stopped car. Frame-by-frame analysis couldn't determine the source. The figure was only visible for 0.7 seconds, but everyone who viewed it reported nausea, headaches, or dizziness afterward. There is a pattern, and it's accelerating. We've started noticing gaps in our archives, audio files missing, clips corrupted, notes rearranged, photos overwritten with static. Even this document you're reading has auto-saved more than 70 times, and some saves occurred when no one was at the desk. Is this manipulation, or is it communication? Our inboxes have been flooded with sightings, reports of figures standing near woods, glowing eyes in attic windows, and inexplicable symbols appearing in frost or condensation. And each report ends the same way. We thought it was over, but it never left. R7 is awake. We've seen enough to know the story isn't finished. There's something beneath this, not just legend, but layers of buried truth. History written in chalk, wiped away before it could be read. And the more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. They've been waiting for someone to speak for them, someone to carry the sound, to echo their signal. But the signal goes both ways, and now they know where to find us. As we prepare to release this final piece, we do so with one warning. If you've read this far, you are now a listener, a participant, a vessel. They don't need to be seen. They just need to be heard. When the lights flicker, when the time hits, 14:27, when your phone buzzes with no caller ID, don't pick up, because it's not a call, it's a return. Soon it will be November. And if the voice comes, the boy, the whisper, the mark, don't ask. Don't follow. Just remember the rule. Turn off the light. And don't look back. This story began as a journalistic investigation, archives, photographs, interviews, a rational approach. We followed leads, verified documents, cross-checked every detail, and it ended with a map marked R7, a whisper on the phone, and children who, officially, never existed. We checked the map. The man who drew it, the viewer's grandfather, really had served at a military reserve depot in Wyoming. He was honorably discharged in 1964. A few months later, he was committed to a psychiatric clinic. Diagnosis: post-traumatic stress triggered by isolation and anomalous spatial disorientation. The intake report we obtained includes a transcript of one of his sessions. He repeated the same sentence 4 times, almost chanting, "They didn't come from outside. They were already inside. They've always been inside." We contacted the Wyoming State Geological Institute to ask why compasses spin out of alignment near the location marked as R7. Their answer? There are no magnetic deposits, no fault lines, no infrastructure. Nothing, except old, overgrown hills and ventilation shafts embedded in the ground, half filled with concrete and rust. That's where we went. No cameras, no mics, just to prove it was all a hoax, because if we hadn't gone, we never would have heard it. It wasn't words. It wasn't a voice calling, just a sound, echoing through a metal pipe. High-pitched, hollow, childlike. But here's the strange part. The 3 of us each heard something different. One of us heard laughter. One of us heard weeping. And I heard my own name. Now we know Orphanage, number 4, was just the first layer. The children didn't vanish. They were relocated. Some of them, we believe, may still be alive, or something that used to be children, or thought it was. Or, as Hatcher once wrote in a redacted letter, they are not people. Not anymore. We sent our findings to the Denver Institute for Anomalous Studies. They went dark 2 weeks later. No returned calls. No emails. Their official website now redirects to a charter school fundraiser. Every trace of their previous research has been scrubbed, but we saved offline backups, including the report where they sequenced DNA from one of the children in the 1923 photo album. Result: 99.8% match with Homo sapiens. 2% unknown. Not animal, not bacterial, not anything currently cataloged by science. Maybe this is what they tried to hide all along. Not ghosts, not folklore, but a biological error, a mutation, an offshoot, a deviation from evolution that should never have survived. Something that learned how to wait. Final recording. If you've made it this far, you're part of the chain now. Not because we're cursed, not because they're watching, but because, like us, you want to know. And knowledge has a cost. Sometimes it's just sleepless nights. Sometimes it's a window that never stays shut, no matter how many times you close it. Sometimes it's a face in your childhood photo album, a face you don't recognize. But it's there, It's always been there. We are stepping into the shadows now, temporarily. But if you find the mark R7 again, anywhere, a tunnel, a symbol, a whisper, do not open it. Do not knock. Do not dig. Just record the coordinates and turn off the lights. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've received over 300 messages. A few were obvious hoaxes, but most felt real. A teenager in Montana claims she found an extra child in her class photo. No one else remembers him. Her teacher says the photo is perfectly normal. An oil worker in North Dakota reported a vent shaft in the middle of a flat field. It wasn't there the day before. Inside, he says, was the smell of rust and a small shoe, size 3, caked in red dust. A woman in Northern California says her smart speaker started talking at 2:27 a.m., just one sentence, in a child's voice. The cycle is open now. Her power went out. Her basement light turned on by itself. She doesn't have a basement. Something is activating, or waking up, or resuming. Whether it's a biological error, a dimensional fracture, or a buried experiment. We don't know. But it left breadcrumbs, and we followed them. So did you. We were never supposed to find this. But now that we have, they know you're listening, and they've been listening back. When November comes, if you hear a child's voice through the wall, if you see symbols on fogged glass, if you wake up with a name in your head that isn't yours, do not speak it. Do not repeat it. Do not turn on the light. Just wait. Let the dark pass. And above all, don't go looking. Because this story was never about finding the truth. It was about what happens once you do. The story is over. Or at least, we'd like to think so. But there are things we couldn't include in a podcast episode. Things we chose not to release to the public. Fragments. Sounds. People who wrote to us after the first episodes aired, and one email address that changed everything. Lawrence, H47, protonmail.com. Lawrence, almost like Lawrence. Like Hannah, the correspondence contained 10 emails. No subjects, no names, no signatures, only attachments. The first one was a photograph of the orphanage, taken in 2023, but that building was demolished in 1923. We checked every record. Nothing left. No foundations. No blueprints. The land was paved over in the 1950s, and yet, there it was. Same crooked roof. Same window with the crack in the upper right corner. Same inscription carved in the frame. They wait, not sleep. The second attachment was a copy of Hatcher's photo album, but not with 32 faces. The last photo, the 33rd, is invisible under normal light, but under UV it appears. A child. Eyes unfocused, barefoot, no shadow. Underneath, handwritten in ink. The Watcher. The rest of the attachments, things we still struggle to describe. Faces that look slightly wrong. People with 2 pupils in each eye. A child with a circular scar etched into their forehead, like a seal or a brand. One file was a GPS track. A hike through a forest in northern Michigan. The route ends in a place that doesn't appear on any topographic map. There's no trail, no clearing, just a gap in the data, like something erased the last 200 meters. The final email contained only a single sentence. Stories aren't fiction. They're instruments, tools, and sometimes keys. We started all this just trying to understand, but now we're asking a different question. Who wants us not to understand? Why did the Institute's website disappear overnight? Why did episode 3 vanish from Spotify for 24 hours, only to return with different audio at the 12-minute mark. Why did one of our Polish listeners report a vent whispering phenomenon after our Voice in the Shaft episode aired? Why are people sharing the same dream? A room with 33 chairs, and one always empty. Why, when we re-listened to the Keller letter episode, did we all hear a child laughing in the background at 4:43? None of us added that. 3 editors worked on that file. It wasn't there before. Now it is. So, what's next? We don't know. Maybe it's all just coincidences. Errors. Cognitive distortions. Or maybe we've stumbled onto something that lives through information, through patterns, through attention, through you. If you're listening, don't panic. Just ask yourself, why you? Why this story? What made it stick? Remember the name, R7. Remember the number, 32 plus 1. If it begins to appear in your dreams, don't respond. If you see the mark on a wall or the number on a receipt, write it down. But don't look back. And remember, sometimes stories don't end because we keep telling them. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for questioning. We're going quiet for a while, but if something changes, you'll know where to look. There are still scraps we never aired. A voicemail from an Arkansas teacher who swears she heard knocking behind the whiteboard. It stopped when she said the number 33 out loud. A father from Quebec who says his toddler has been counting backwards in her sleep, starting at 32 and ending at me. An old woman in Argentina who mailed us a single Polaroid. No return address. It shows a circle of children, all holding hands, surrounding a metal hatch in the ground. On the back, handwritten, I saw the cycle once. In November, we turned off the light. It did not help. The podcast may be on hold, but the story isn't. It's moving now, between static, between thoughts, between places only some of us can react. So if you hear that laugh at 4:43, or see a photograph with one extra child, or dream of a name that isn't yours, don't say it, don't write it, don't share it. Just remember, R733, the Watcher. And when the time comes, turn off the light. We're always listening. But now, so are they.